Greetings, and welcome to the West Virginia Secretary of State's newest edition of Pollworker Training. Today, we will be giving step-by-step instructions on the proper procedures for running the polling place on Election Day, and we are so glad you are here. This Pollworker Training video is a helpful learning tool that was made with the help of our terrific county clerks. For issues that are not discussed in this video, please consult with your county clerk for additional guidance. Now let's get started. Section 1. Before the polls open. This section will cover the proper procedure for preparing and opening the polling place on Election Day. Poll worker arrival and oath. All poll workers should report to the polling place by 5:30 a.m. If any official has not arrived by 5:45 a.m., the workers present should contact the county clerk's office, which will work to fill the vacancy. Poll workers must read and sign the poll worker oath before beginning their duties for the day. At exactly 6:30 a.m., a poll worker must step outside of the precinct and announce in a clear and audible manner that the polls are officially open. Poll workers should work diligently to ensure that all setup is complete prior to 6:30 a.m. Signage. This section will cover what information should be posted outside of the polling place and at the designated entrance. The door of the entrance to the polling place must have the following signage posted: the polling place sign containing the precinct number, a sample ballot, instructions to voters, a list of the official write-in candidates if there are any, a list of acceptable forms of voter identification, a sign informing the voter of their rights, a sign with information on provisional ballots, a sign containing the hours that the precinct will be open to voters, and historically, West Virginia polling place entrances include United States flags on the entrance of the polling place. The parking area must have at least one van accessible space. The accessible space must be located at the shortest accessible route to the voting area. Signs shall be 60 inches minimum above the finished floor or ground surface measured to the bottom of the sign. A lack of accessible parking can be resolved by displaying temporary signage and utilizing traffic cones to designate parking spaces in flat, firm, paved areas. For unstable surfaces, such as gravel or drain grates obstructing the path of travel, temporary mats can be placed, ensuring a stable, firm, and non-slip surface. To establish the no electioneering zone outside the polling place, poll workers must measure a 100-foot distance from the entrance in both directions using the measuring cord provided. At each of the 100-foot marks, a no electioneering sign must be posted. This requirement applies to all entrances to the polling place. Preparing inaccessible polling places for curbside voting. Under the ADA, the County Commission must select polling sites that are or can be made accessible so that voters with disabilities can participate in elections on the same terms and with the same level of privacy as other voters. In the rare circumstance that a polling place is inaccessible, voters with physical impairments that prevent them from entering the polling place may request to vote an absentee ballot from an automobile if no voters are voting or waiting to vote inside the polling place. Post signage provided by the county clerk informing voters of the possibility of voting curbside, the location of the curbside voting, and how voters can notify poll workers that they are waiting curbside. Set up the method as instructed by the county clerk for voters with disabilities to announce their arrival at the curbside. A temporary doorbell or buzzer system would be sufficient, but not a telephone system requiring the use of a cell phone or a call-ahead notification. Setting up the check-in table. Materials that are required to be on the poll worker or poll clerk's table include a paper poll book or electronic poll book if applicable, lists of absentee and early voters, unless that is tracked in an electronic poll book, a listing of official write-in candidates if there are any, a sample ballot, instructions to voters, provisional ballot envelopes and information, voters' rights information, information on West Virginia's voter ID requirements, voter assistance forms and information, and any additional forms or information required by the county clerk. E-Pollbook setup. Like a paper poll book, the e-poll book contains the registration information of every voter in the precinct, including their full name, physical address, and party registration. Poll clerks use the poll book to check in each voter as they enter the polling place. Remove the tablet, accompanying printer, and all cords from the carrying case. Plug the power cords into both the e-poll book and printer. A USB cord is needed to connect the printer to the e-poll book and should be provided within the carrying case. If your precinct is using an express vote and has the additional express vote validator printer, remove the printer from the case at this time. The validator will come with an additional power cord and USB. Plug the power cord in and connect the USB to the back of the validator printer and the base of the e-poll book. Press the power button to turn the validator on. A blue light will indicate it has been assembled properly. Once all devices are connected properly, power the tablet on and press Launch Express Poll. The poll workers must enter the poll book qualification code given by the county clerk before proceeding. Immediately after, the poll worker will then have to sign in using credentials they also received from the county clerk. When the polls officially open at 6:30 a.m., press the Open the Polls prompt. Ballot box position and setup. The ballot box should be placed between the voting booths and the exit so that it is in full view of all poll workers and voters throughout the day. Before the polls open, two poll workers of opposite political parties will look inside the box to confirm that it is completely empty. After confirming there are no contents within, close the box and secure it with two unique locks. Each lock should have a unique key that will only open one of the locks. The keys to the separate locks must be given to commissioners of opposite political parties to ensure that no single person can open the ballot box. Once ballots have been placed inside the ballot box, it should remain locked at all times. Both individuals in possession of a key must be present at all times when the box is open. Statements of ballots used form. Before the polls open, poll workers must enter the total ballots received on the Statement of Ballots Used form. The number will be on the receipt for each wrapped package of ballots. Ballots received will be compared to ballots used and unused at the close of polls. Section 2. Checking in voters. This section will cover how to check in a voter once they enter the polling place. Voter identification. When someone enters the polling place, direct them to the poll clerk's table. First, you should ask the voter for their name, address, and an acceptable form of voter identification. Under West Virginia law, the voter must show a photo ID to vote. Narrow exemptions do exist for voters who swear and affirm that they belong to recognized religious communities that prohibit them from being photographed. Only these voters are permitted by law to provide a state-issued ID without a photo for voter ID purposes. Acceptable forms of photo ID include a West Virginia driver's license or ID card, a West Virginia photo voter identification card, a driver's license from another state, a U.S. passport, a U.S. military ID card, a U.S. or West Virginia government employee ID, a student ID, or a concealed carry permit. Voters of the age 65 or older may use one of the accepted forms of voter ID that is currently expired as long as it was valid on their 65th birthday. In order to register, new voters are required to show a specific form of identification known as a first-time voter ID. New voters who were unable to present one of the required forms of first-time voter ID when registering must provide both a first-time voter ID and an accepted form of photo ID at the polling place before being issued a ballot. Those who did not present a first-time voter ID when registering are flagged in the poll book so that poll clerks know to ask for an acceptable form of first-time voter ID. Acceptable forms of first-time voter ID include a current and valid photo ID or a current utility bill, bank statement, government check, paycheck, or other government document that shows the name and current residence of the voter. If a voter that is flagged is unable to provide you with a valid form of first-time voter ID, a provisional ballot must be issued to the voter. There are 3 exceptions to the voter ID requirement. They are a signed, sworn affidavit by an adult who has known the voter for 6 months or more, and the person signing the affidavit must show a photo ID with name and address, a poll worker who has known the voter for at least 6 months, or residents of a state care facility that vote at their facility. Once the voter has satisfied the ID requirement, the poll worker may proceed with checking them in using the poll book. Electronic poll books. For precincts that use electronic poll books, begin by selecting the Search for Voter tab at the top of the screen. Type the first 3 letters of the voter's last name in the last name field, the first couple of letters of the voter's first name in the first name field, and the voter's date of birth. If the voter is not found, select Search Entire County. If the voter is found and the address is correct, select the voter. If the address is different than the one listed, call the county clerk to determine the correct precinct for the voter. Once the voter is found in the poll book, select their name to bring up the voter record screen. Carefully examine the voter's ID to ensure that it is valid and matches what is in the poll book. Some county clerks may instruct their poll workers to use an optional feature of the ES&S Express poll books that allows the voter to scan their state-issued ID card to pull up their registration. If the e-poll book scanner fails to read the barcode on the voter's ID, simply look the voter up using their last name, first name, and date of birth as previously covered. If the voter has moved addresses without updating their registration, their address may be incorrect in the poll book. If the voter is in the poll book, but their name or address is incorrect, contact the clerk's office to check if they are in the proper precinct. If they are still in the proper precinct, update their address either using the e-poll book tablet or by the instruction of the county clerk. If the address is incorrect, direct them to vote a provisional ballot at their proper precinct. Voters who wish to vote in the wrong precinct based on county clerk records should be issued a provisional ballot. The circumstances surrounding provisional ballots are reviewed by a county board during canvass. The board will decide whether a ballot is counted based on the voter's eligibility under the law to vote in that precinct. Under no circumstances may a voter be refused a provisional ballot at the polling place. If all voter information on the screen is correct, check the list of absentee and early voters before issuing their ballot. If the voter is on either the absentee or early voters list, they must be issued a provisional ballot if they insist on voting again or believe their record of voting history is in error. If the voter provides their absentee ballot to a poll worker, the poll worker may spoil the ballot, place it in the spoiled ballot envelope, and the voter may vote a regular ballot at the polling place. In primary elections, those registered as independent or non-affiliated voters may vote the nonpartisan ballot, or they may request to vote a ballot of a recognized party who chooses to provide this option. Poll workers should direct voters to the sign explaining which ballot they have the option to vote. Voters registered with a recognized political party, such as Republican, Democrat, Mountain, Libertarian, or Constitution, may only vote their party's ballot if available. If a voter is registered with a recognized party who does not nominate their candidates in the primary, they must vote the nonpartisan ballot. A poll worker may not suggest a ballot for an independent or non-affiliated voter in a primary election. If the voter does not choose a ballot style, issue a nonpartisan ballot. Follow the instructions from your county clerk on selecting the appropriate ballot style using the Express Poll Book. After that, the voter will need to sign the tablet for the poll worker to finish issuing their standard ballot. Before proceeding, the poll worker will need to follow the on-screen prompts until they are prompted to complete check-in to successfully print the voter's poll book stub. If the precinct is using the optional Express Vote Validator printer, an activated Express Vote ballot that contains the voter's ballot style information will be printed before the poll book stub. After the poll book stub has been printed, a poll worker will write the ballot number on the poll book stub and have two poll workers of different political parties sign the back of the ballot. A poll worker will then escort the voter to an open voting machine with the blank ballot, poll book stub, and secrecy sleeve. If the voter's ballot was not activated using the optional Express Vote Validator printer, the poll worker may have to select the correct ballot style based on the voter's party when they first insert the voter's blank ballot into the Express Vote. If the Express Vote is being used for early voting, the correct precinct will have to be selected at this time. Section 3. How to vote. In this section, we will cover the proper process for voting once the voter has been checked in at the polling place. Hand-marked ballots. When voting a hand-marked ballot, voters should be instructed to take their time and read all instructions carefully. Instructions with each contest will specify how many selections can be chosen. Overvoting, or voting more selections than what is allowed for a specific contest, will cause all selections for that specific contest to not be counted. It is also worth noting that there is no penalty for undervoting or voting for fewer candidates than permitted if the voter chooses. Voters should check the back of the ballot for additional contests. After completing the ballot and reviewing their selections, the voter will then approach the ballot box for submission. If a voter wishes to change their selections before submitting their ballot into the ballot box, they may ask a poll worker to spoil the current ballot and issue another. Before submitting the ballot, a poll worker will remove the ballot stub and attach it to the voter's poll slip. The ballot stub and poll slip are traditionally strung together with a needle and thread, but using a stapler works as well. Note that the ballot stub and poll slip must match, or the poll workers must spoil the ballot. After the ballot stub is removed, the voter will submit the ballot as instructed by the poll worker. This may include providing the ballot to the poll worker to place in the ballot box or the voter placing it in the ballot box directly. Administering curbside voting. Upon receiving an alert from a curbside voter, if there are voters present inside the polling place, a poll worker may walk to the entrance of the polling place and momentarily stop voters from entering. If your precinct has an extra team of poll workers, curbside voting will not need to pause if 5 poll workers remain in your precinct. Once the voters who were already present in the polling place are finished casting their ballots, 2 election commissioners or poll clerks of opposite parties in the precinct provide the voter an absentee ballot application, an absentee ballot designated for curbside voting by the county clerk, the absentee voter's ballot envelope number 2, a secrecy envelope, and all materials available to voters in the polling place. For example, a sample ballot and write-in list. If the voter requires assistance, the 2 election commissioners or poll clerks or person designated by the voter shall sign number 7 on page 2 of the voter's absentee ballot application, titled Oath of Voter's Assistant. Next, the voter returns the completed absentee ballot application, completed absentee voter's ballot envelope number 2, and their ballot secured in the sealed secrecy envelope to the poll workers. Then, after the poll workers return to the polling place with the voter's absentee ballot application and materials, voting within the polling place may resume. At the end of the night, the precinct poll workers return curbside voter absentee ballot materials and applications to the county clerk with all other election materials. ADA compliance and accessibility. All counties, even those that use hand-marked paper ballots, are required by law to provide an ADA-compliant voting machine at every polling location for federal elections. The Express Vote marking device meets the necessary requirements thanks to the many accessibility features it provides. The main accessibility features of the Express Vote include an audio tactile keypad with braille labeling, headphones and port for audio ballot use, and height adjustment settings for both standing and seated voters. Poll workers may assist voters with setting up these accessibility features. The Express Vote is also compatible with sip and puff switches. However, each voter is required to provide their own sip and puff device. Voters who qualify for assistance from another person in voting their ballot include, but are not limited to, voters with physical disabilities, voters with visual impairments, and voters who are unable to read. Persons who may assist the voter can be either a person of the voter's choice or 2 poll workers of opposite political parties. Persons who are prohibited from assisting a voter include an agent or office of a labor union, a present or former employer, or an agent of the employer. The person assisting the voter must complete the assisted voters form found in the precinct kit. All information on the form must be completed. If the same person assists multiple voters throughout the day, alert your county clerk or the Secretary of State's office. If the voter insists on receiving assistance after the poll workers have determined that they should not need it, the poll workers can require that a provisional ballot be cast to be considered later at canvass. Before making a final determination on whether a voter requires assistance or not, be mindful that a voter may not wish to reveal a learning disability. Provisional ballots. Provisional ballots are different from regular ballots and not counted on election night. Provisional ballots are considered by the County Board of Canvassers once the official canvassing process starts 5 days after the election. All election results are considered unofficial until canvassing is complete. In instances when a poll worker has good reason to doubt the eligibility of a voter, a provisional ballot should be used. A voter always has the right to vote a provisional ballot at the polling place if they so choose. Some common examples of when a poll worker should issue a voter a provisional ballot include: the voter's name is not in the poll book, the voter is in the wrong precinct, the voter has already voted absentee or during early voting, the poll book signatures do not match, the voter wants assistance but doesn't need it, a poll worker wishes to vote but is not in their precinct, and a voter does not have the required identification. Since provisional ballots are not counted on election night, they are kept separate from regular ballots. Provisional ballot poll slips remain in the poll book, and the ballot stub is left on the provisional ballot. Poll workers are also not to sign the provisional ballots. There are 3 envelopes needed for processing a provisional ballot. Envelope 1 is the privacy envelope, which is a substitute for the secrecy sleeve. It is intended to keep how the person voted private and should be given to the voter with their blank ballot. The privacy envelope is the smallest of the 3 and should have the voter's precinct number written on it. Envelope 2 is the explanation envelope, which the poll workers use to detail why the voter cast a provisional ballot. Poll workers must fill out both sides of the envelope. Envelope number 3 is the return envelope that holds all provisional ballots cast throughout the day for the precinct. This envelope will be sealed in the process of closing the polls after the statement of ballots used form is completed. While the voter is voting, fill out envelope number 2, the explanation envelope, completely. All information should be included and is important context for the County Board of Canvassers when considering whether the ballot should be counted. The voter should place the completed provisional ballot inside the privacy envelope. Remember that poll workers do not sign provisional ballots, and the ballot stub should not be removed. Place the privacy envelope inside the explanation envelope. Seal the explanation envelope and have the voter sign across the seal. Then place the sealed explanation envelope into the precinct envelope that holds all provisionals for that day. Once the provisional ballot is completed, fill out and give the voter a provisional ballot tracking slip. This tracking slip has instructions on how the voter can track their provisional ballot to determine if their vote was counted at canvass. Spoiling ballots. Spoiling a ballot is the proper procedure for disposing of a completed or partially completed ballot that has one of the following issues. The ballot stub and poll slip do not match, the ballot is defaced, the ballot was not signed by 2 poll workers, or the voter has indicated that they voted the ballot incorrectly and would like a new one. To spoil a ballot, first a poll clerk must write "spoiled" across the front of the ballot to indicate that the ballot is no longer usable. The ballot will then be placed in the spoiled ballot envelope. Do not dispose of the voter's poll slip, as it must be reused. Mark through the old ballot stub number in the poll book and replace it with a new one. Section 4, Ballot Boxes and Ballot Scanners. In this section, we will go over the proper procedure for storing completed ballots once the voter is finished with their selections. The ballot box at the polling place. Precincts that use a traditional ballot box at the polling place will store completed ballots until they can be tabulated at the clerk's office after the polls close. State law requires the ballot box to be secured with 2 separate padlocks, the keys to which are kept by 2 commissioners of opposite political parties. The ballot box should remain locked at all times throughout the day and only opened in the presence of both poll workers. Don't forget to remove the ballot stub before submitting a completed ballot into the locked ballot box. Remember that provisional ballots are not counted on election night and should not be stored with regular ballots. Section 5, Closing the Polls. This section covers the proper procedure for closing the polls and breaking down all the necessary equipment and materials for transport. At precisely 7:30 p.m., a poll worker should step out of the precinct and announce in a clear and audible manner that the polls are officially closed. All voters who are in line prior to 7:30 p.m. have the right to vote. 2 poll workers of opposite political parties shall issue each voter that is in line at 7:30 a waiting voter's permit. Those who do not have a permit after 7:30 are not allowed to vote. Electronic poll book shutdown. Before powering down the express poll book, a poll worker must first return to the main menu and follow the on-screen prompts to close polls. Once that is done, the poll worker will sign out of the tablet and press the shutdown button on the launch screen. The tablet can also be powered down by holding the power button on the tablet until "Slide to shut down your PC" appears. Power off any printers connected to the e-Pollbook tablet and disconnect all cords. Place all components back into their carrying case. Packing and transporting election supplies. Remove all signage from inside of voting booths, on the entrances to the polling place, and around the perimeter, such as electioneering notifications and handicapped parking signs. Place all signage and literature back in their corresponding bag. Before sealing all of the election materials, the poll workers must complete all Statement of Ballots Used forms. These forms take account of how many ballots were used throughout the day by counting ballot stubs and combining that total with the number of spoiled ballots. This form is mandatory for all elections and will be used as a reference at Canvass. Once the Statement of Ballots Used form is complete, seal all ballot stubs in the ballot stub envelope. All provisional ballots and spoiled ballots will each be sealed in their respective provisional ballot envelope and spoiled ballot envelope accordingly. Precincts utilizing a traditional ballot box will thread a tamper-evident seal through the lock insert of the ballot box to ensure safe transport back to the clerk's office for tabulation. Once all materials are packed, refer to the county clerk for directions on what to do with all of the sealed materials and any voting equipment that must be taken from the polling place. The sealed ballots, as well as any other sensitive information, such as the USB media stick and configuration report from the DS200 if applicable, should be accompanied by two poll workers who belong to opposite political parties but ride in the same vehicle back to the central counting location. Tallying the ballots for municipal elections. Unlike in federal, statewide, or county elections, all completed ballots are tallied at the polling place in municipal elections. The absentee ballots will be delivered to the polling place by the town recorder, town clerk, or a representative of the county clerk's office. All absentee ballots delivered must be counted to ensure the count matches the total number of absentee ballots listed on the master list provided by the town clerk or town recorder. If the number of absentee ballots received matches the total on the master list, begin by opening the envelopes and tearing the ballot stubs from each absentee ballot. String all the ballot stubs together using a needle and thread or a stapler if preferred. Once that is finished, place the absentee ballots in the ballot box with the completed ballots from Election Day. Next, locate the completed ballots from the early voting period. These ballots should be stored separately from the Election Day ballots in a separate ballot box or delivered to the polling place by the town recorder, town clerk, or a representative of the county clerk's office. Count the early voting ballots and verify the count matches the total listed on the master list using the same process as before. Unlike the absentee ballots, these ballot stubs should have already been detached from the early voting ballots and strung or stapled together accordingly. Place the early voting ballots in the ballot box with the Election Day ballots and absentee ballots. Once all the ballots are combined, the poll workers can proceed with tallying the ballots. One poll worker will read the selections on each ballot aloud. At the same time, another poll worker of an opposite political party will watch them read the selections to ensure accuracy. Two other poll workers of opposite parties will tally the ballots on the tally sheets provided. All totals on each tally sheet should match exactly, or else the tally process must restart. Once tallying is completed, the results will be posted outside the polling place on the door or window. That concludes the poll worker training curriculum provided by the West Virginia Secretary of State's office. Thank you for your service as a poll worker, and remember, elections cannot happen without you, the poll workers.